Okay, I had numerous people ask me in public and on my forum and some of the other websites I run, along with my Facebook page, about our local music scene in the Sioux. That's Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, for those who are watching these videos on YouTube outside of this area. One thing about the Sioux, we've always had a fair number of great musicians, and throughout the years, if you've followed the music scene, you know who they are. They've just managed to adapt, to the changing styles of music and that throughout the years and some decades. I mean, I know bands right now that were, they're popular in the 60s and they're still getting gigs to this day. The local music scene, though, here in the Sioux is it's a mixed bag of anxiety. There are I should say, there's a lot of proud musicians in the city, and you can see the styles of music in their own neutral corner, and they like to protect that space. And over the years, you've seen certain styles become super popular where others have faded, and then within 7 to 10 years, it does a flip where another style is popular and the other one fades. And I know that's like that all over, but having been a touring musician, the Sault Ste. Marie, it's just a mixed bag of emotions when it comes to the music. It's a little bit stronger here. I know I have strong feelings about the music scene here. I always have had my own opinions of it. The problem with this city is I think there's actually more bands and musicians than there are venues to play. Back in the late 70s and definitely the 80s, the bar scene was huge. I mean, you could play 7 nights a week in different venues, whether it be rock or country or the wedding band thing. That was huge too. I mean, massively huge. This is all before DJs, and you could make a good living at it. I'll be honest. In the years and decades I've been playing, the change happened at the grunge period. I'm not going to say I'm the expert on that's why it happened, but that's what I feel in my own heart. That's what changed things. It was such a drastic change from anything to do with the 80s rock and roll and even the country stuff. It was such a drastic change. It influenced a lot. And I don't think it was for the better, although there were a lot of good grunge bands, but I just think it actually killed the industry. It wiped out a lot of bands, put it that way. Locally, though, we have a lot of proud musicians, and the sad part with living in this smaller community, you don't seem to have the influences of the world penetrate this little area. I mean, we don't even have a true local rock music station like they used to back when I was younger. So the influences are kind of funneled in from other sources, and they seem to be such a mishmash of styles, but it's not really what the world is listening to in music. And I mean, sure, there are some that are listening to the top 40 and stuff, but still, you can go online now and listen to radio stations from huge cities, and even they aren't playing what we're playing here. We seem to be stuck in a time warp. So first off, I'm going to put the blame on that. If it wasn't for the internet, I think we would be in trouble for music influences. Not having a good quality local radio station for, say, rock music or jazz music or blues music really leaves a big hole on which, to get influences. Like, you start to feel stagnant. The only way you're going to get some of this great music that's being made is you have to go search for it, which is horrible, because back in the day it used to be given to you, or it was, your ears got a taste of it. That's just my opinion. The other thing I find discouraging is the venues over the years. Now, there are venues here locally that have survived, and the reason why they survive is they don't, once they've hooked on a good thing, they don't vary from that formula. You might call it safe, I guess, playing it safe. And I'm going to name a few bars, and you know what, the problem with our city is of musicians, they get offended too easily. So I'm not out to offend anybody, but I am going to voice my opinion of how I see this music scene in our city. So I'm going to use the bar Lop Lops for one. Now, Lop Lops basically came from the ashes of another bar. I believe it was Oscar's Den. Now, you hear criticism of the Lop Lops bar. You hear good things, you hear bad things, we'll say. My own opinion of this bar is they found a formula, and it works. And because some musicians on the outside don't fit their style, they condemn this bar for whatever reason. I shouldn't say condemn it, I would say badmouth it. Now, I've only been in there a few times, and I don't know the owner very well, but he's hooked on the winning formula. The bands he gets in don't vary too much from the style that he likes or the formula that worked from the very get-go. And you can badmouth that all you want, but the bar before that didn't work, and they were playing a different style of music. So you can't blame Lop Lops for being successful. This also goes for like the local country bar Reggie's. They've been around for a long time. Now, I was young enough to remember it when it was a previous bar, and it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. When Reggie got in there, he created it, with the help of a few others, and made it work. And it's been working ever since. I mean, he's been there decades. I know I've played in that bar for so long over the years in various country rock bands. So he's got a winning formula there, and you can't condemn that. What I see happening with other bars around town is they're confused on the style of music that they want to play or have in there. They don't stick to their formula or a winning formula, sad to say. I'm not saying running a bar is easy. It's not. Having played the bar scene for so long, I know it's not, but neither is running a band. But in a city that doesn't really have a lot of musical venues, or not venues, but musical input from radio stations, there's enough there to kind of enough bands out there to suit each style, and it's up to the bar owner to tap into what the city's missing. And I don't think the bar owners really grasp that. I mean, the Canadian bar for years, they were the main draw was country. And I don't think that bar, before or since the country thing has faded, has made the money they ever did with the country bands back then. I was part of that. Those were great times. But now a lot of these bars are soul searching. So that's a problem. When the bar doesn't know or doesn't understand the music industry and what works and doesn't work. On the flip side of that too is people's taste in music has changed. You can't. It makes it harder to find that winning formula, because really, music as we know it, the simple labels of rock and country and jazz. They've splintered into all these subgroups now, and they find their audience. So it's really tough to get that winning formula. The other problem I have is musicians. There are musicians that want to help get this music scene going, and I was part of that for years and years. But then in this city there are what's the term I'm going to use? There are the forces against you that want to see things fail. They seem to like the gloomy side of things. Now, for years, in early parts of 2000, I had started a forum on the SUNET website called the Musician Central. And the whole point of that was to get a Sioux collective of musicians to try and build up interest within the public that there's some good bands here, come out and see us play. And it was to also help promote the bar scene, to help, it was basically trying to help everybody involved in the food chain of the bar, the musicians and the promotions and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people have thought about doing what I did with Musician Central, but either didn't know how or were afraid to. I'm going to get to that afraid part in a bit. So I started the forum, and within a year it was really growing. People were interested in it. Started building up. People were talking about the local bands again, and it really was bringing people's attention to it that were non-musicians, because the Musicians Central Forum on CNET was part of other topics. There was religion, your local news and activities. So people would wander over, what's this all about? And they would read it. And it was really catching on. It was doing well. Then, as I mentioned before, there's these forces that are against everything you do. And it's not that these people had anything constructive to say. They were just out to create problems, and they wanted to feed off of the enjoyment that others were having on the site and turn it into a negative. And sadly, the world is full of these people. The unfortunate part with that whole forum thing is that even though I can be the creator on this particular site, there are authority figures above. It's like a business. There's people above you, your bosses, to speak. I mean, it's all volunteer anyways on that particular site, but you still have bosses above, and they're going to say yay or nay on certain things. So what happens is these people that sneak onto these forums and hide under these under these false names. They just love to shit disturb, basically, is what the term is, and bring a positive thing to a negative. And it's really hard to fight that, because eventually posters that are having a good time with it are now afraid to post because of negative attacks and things like that. That's just part of everyday life on the internet, okay? But not everybody adjusts to it, and not everybody accepts it. For me, I deal with it. I don't have a problem with it in the sense that it doesn't bother me. It's not something I lose sleep over, but I mean, it affects a lot of people in different ways, and a lot of people were afraid to start posting. So this happened around the 2-year mark of that forum. So a good thing was now starting to go sour. And I could see it. Now I'll get back to this authority thing. The problem with those forums is you always have to answer to the people above. So when it come down to policing the site, I was what they call a moderator, and there was a few other people that were moderating. We answered to the administrator on that site. The problem is the administrator, slow at getting things ironed out, and you were limited as a moderator to correct these things. You know, you couldn't get these people off. You couldn't, off that website, you couldn't ban them, you couldn't block them, because you had to wait for this administrator. Now obviously this administrator has other duties. He just doesn't sit there and for free with all his free time and, you know, pick and choose, you know, to be on the forum all day. You know, he has other jobs, so he couldn't be there. And I never understood why Sunet just didn't give the administrative job to someone that was going to be there all the time. And it's even worse on that forum today, unfortunately. They basically ruined a good thing. They've ruined it, you know, for the Musician Central part, but they've also ruined the forum in general. It's horrible now. It's sad, you know. With a simple fix, they could have had an administrator and policed it, and it probably would have survived. So, but the negative side of things. The internet has brought forth those kind of people. Now, for myself, I kind of go into defense and attack mode, you know, because I love to talk and I love to type and I love to write. So, the only way to get away from that is to start something on your own. So I did start a forum on my own, and from that Musician Central, other forums started up, which was really cool, because whereas my Musician Central failed, others have thrived. And a guy named Rob Figures started the Sioux metal scene, which focuses mainly on one style, which is metal music. And he used to read my forums all the time, and he basically took his own direction on it, and he's doing really well with it. If you read it, it's very well organized. He basically is on it every day. He updates it pretty much every day. He's very loyal to the site, and he has a huge fan base. Now that is a great thing. And there were other forums too. They escape me at the moment. But his, I think, along with my my own solo Freaks Music Plan, were the two that kind of kept going. But I would say Rob is definitely, he's on top of the game right now, whereas I get sidetracked with so much other things in the music that I don't have a direct focus like he does. So that's definitely a plus for him. The sad point for, say, Rob's love of his style of music, the metal thing, is that there aren't venues for it, and they have to create their venues. Like they do gigs at the Odd Fellows, and you know, it's a combination between metal and punk. And those are all great things, but it's not. It's hard to gain your audience when you can't get a regular venue, and it's sad that somebody locally doesn't start a bar with just metal music. And so, I mean, Rob is trying his hardest to promote the metal music, and they are a very very loyal fan base. These metal guys. I mean, I grew up playing metal. I'm not going to say I'm a metal, a true metal musician, but I've played a lot of it over the years, and I do get pegged as that, but I am not. And I've gotten a lot of flack saying that I cut down metal, which that's all just horseshit, because you know, through the 80s my record collection was a lot of metal bands. My tastes of who I like may vary to what's out there now, and that's where people still get offended. It's like you can't say anything about someone getting offended, and basically it's my opinion of what I like. You may not like it. You have your own taste. People have to learn to get, how my mother used to say was, a thicker skin. You know, we can all like our own music for our own reasons. And if I like metal for some certain reason, the other person likes it for another reason, it doesn't mean we each hate metal. We just don't like certain factors of it, or we don't agree on our likes, basically. So for the metal part of it, I feel sad for them because it's hard to find a venue for it. And then you get these, and another thing I'll say about the metal guys is, and even when I was playing it in my youth, is metal guys they just want to play. They want to go, they want to lay a show on you, and money isn't why they do it. You know, so they get like 6-7 bands playing in a night, you know, each doing a set, and you know, it's a good thing, but it's a sad thing. It's a bittersweet thing because you know, you get a great following for the metal shows with, you know, 7 bands. They're not making a cent. They have to buy their gear. I mean, you have to buy gear. People don't understand how expensive music gear is. But a musician, that love of music and buying gear just grows within them. So with the help of Rob Figures, the metal scene is strong, but it's hard to gain new audiences when you don't have the venue.